I'd now like to welcome to the floor our final speaker for today prior to the panel discussion, our very own Kate Batz, Director of Famtech Analytics and a fellow partner of Longevity Capital. Kate, always great to have you with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Franco. Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here, and I thank all of our speakers for giving us excellent presentations. I have been a proud member of Deep Knowledge Group for almost 3 years now, and I'm very excited and privileged to be a director of our new analytical subsidiary, Famtech Analytics. We've started in June of this year, and we're very active in the field. Many of you know that Deep Knowledge Group always deeply cared about longevity or health span, and Famtech Analytics, focuses specifically on female health. I would like to, provide a brief overview of our recent open access analytical report, which is part of the broader longevity biomarkers report, which we were fortunate to collaborate with together with Longevity International and Aging Analytics Agency. So I'll start with the Famtech industry review, briefly touch upon a biomarker specification, focus on biomarkers of longevity, and give some key conclusions, as well as a brief update as to what are we up to. So what is Famtech? Femtech generally refers to software, diagnostics, products, and services that use technology to support women's health. The projected growth rate is actually quite remarkable. So it is estimated to have been 21.7 billion in 2020, and it is projected to reach 60.1 billion in 2027. One of the key reasons behind that is actually a shift in socio-cultural paradigm of how female health is viewed. Traditionally, the most important sector was involved with female reproductive health, but we are glad to see that there is an expansion of the umbrella of Femtech that now involves mental health, sexual well-being, and a number of other sectors. As part of our report, we also prepared an open access analytical platform that everyone is welcome to use if you go to femtech.health/report, because we offered our classification of Femtech, and we profiled over 1,500 companies, 1,000 of investors, and a number of R&D centers. In terms of our Femtech biomarker classification, first of all, these are biomarkers that are specific to women only. As I mentioned, reproductive health does play an important role here, and is the leading segment. So we definitely have pregnancy biomarkers such as pregnancy trackers, prenatal testing, neonatal testing. Also biomarkers of female cancers such as breast, ovarian, cervical, endometrial. We also have biomarkers of female reproductive health, such as vaginal microflora, endometriosis, infectious disease biomarkers, and biomarkers of pelvic floor disorders. And there's also, of course, fertility biomarkers such as ovulation trackers, menopause biomarkers, hormonal biomarkers, and ovarian reserve biomarkers. And finally, there are biomarkers of general women's health, such as complex health assessment, biomarkers of cardiovascular diseases, and skin biomarkers. This diagram actually depicts the key companies, investors, and R&D sectors working on the respective subsegments here. I've mentioned earlier that longevity has been our long-term focus and remains to be such. Aging affects all of us, and women while they live longer, they do not necessarily live healthier. And the longevity biomarkers are especially important here, and we separate them in three key groups. One is the general women's health biomarkers, including skin, cardiovascular health, as well as complex health assessment. We do have reproductive health biomarkers, of course, including infectious diseases, endometriosis, reproductive aging, and age-related diseases, as well as cancer biomarkers that I mentioned earlier. Speaking of cancer, approximately 13% of women suffer from it, but thankfully, a lot of it can be prevented. In terms of biomarkers of cancer, breast cancer leads in terms of the focus, followed by ovarian cancer, cervical cancer, and endometrial cancer. Pregnancy biomarkers are dominated by pregnancy trackers, prenatal tests, and neonatal tests. Fertility biomarkers, essentially assess a woman's capability of getting pregnant and giving birth. Here, we have fertility hormones leading the way, followed by ovulation trackers, ovarian reserve trackers, and menopause detectors. Reproductive health-wise, we have the important sector here is infectious diseases, especially HPV. And many companies also develop vaginal microflora biomarkers as well, followed by endometriosis biomarkers, because here early prevention, detection, and is extremely important. Also, I mentioned pelvic floor disorders biomarkers as well. And then going to the biomarkers of general women's health and longevity. The important one here is skin health, followed by cardiovascular health, and a complex health assessment. In terms of market overview as of this hour, we would see that in terms of specialization, more than 50% of companies in the space are involved in the fields that concern reproductive health, fertility, and pregnancy biomarkers. But I've mentioned earlier that we now have also other sub-segments in this space. And then the other 30% of the companies are focusing on various female cancers. If we take a regional overview, United States is a clear leader, followed by Europe, Israel, and India. This chart actually represents the companies that are leaders in terms of funding, and I encourage everyone to check out our report because I don't want to delve into too much details as we are pressed for time. R&D centers, United States leads as well, followed by UK, followed by Europe, and Canada. Investors-wise, again, North America is in the lead, followed by Europe. There is a welcome trend of a growing number of Famtech companies, and they are focusing on the segments that I've mentioned earlier, and there's a steady growth. In terms of conclusions, Famtech is definitely an emerging field. It's growing fast. It has a high compound annual growth rate. It combines both solutions and startups that focus on women's health. Fertility and pregnancy issues remain to be, the leading sectors, but there is an increased focus on other aspects of female health as well. And Famtech biomarkers, in our view, are referred to four main areas of women's life. It's general health, reproductive health, fertility, pregnancy, and women's cancers. And the most significant numbers of Famtech biomarkers companies, as well as R&D centers, are in North America. So a brief overview of what are we up to. Those of you who were at our conference yesterday probably had a chance to see Dmitry's presentation on his book on biomarkers of human longevity, which I highly encourage everyone to read. And we're going to get the PDF once we conclude our conference. There's an upcoming book that our team is preparing that will focus specifically on women longevity, and it's coming out later this year. And our analytical subsidiaries, traditionally, starting from Age Analytics Agency, have been producing a number of open access analytical reports, which are accompanied by IT platforms. Famtech Analytics is no exception to this rule. And since its inception in June of this year, we actually produced a number of open access analytical case studies, such as Famtech industry overview, investment digest, and a number of other projects, which I encourage everyone to take a look at www.femtech.health. Further, we're also going to invest in the space. We are in the process of setting up a special purpose vehicle, which will be investing in Famtech. And it's good news that in 2020, a total of 520 million of VC capital was invested into Famtech. And we hope that this trend will continue. And it's grown tenfold since 2012. It's been a pleasure to give this presentation. I thank everyone who is attending our event. We can be easily reached at femtech.health. Feel free to shoot me an email. I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate.